when you get that voice in your head that's telling you that you're not going to be able to do that, or don't talk to that person because you're going to make a prat of yourself, is ignore that voice and just do it.
Welcome to The Backbone, the personal branding podcast for people who don't fit inside a box. Today we're joined by Shaun Campbell. Shaun is the founder of Did Someone Say Retro? He's an engineering wizard who makes unique gaming consoles and amazing online content. Shaun, thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us a bit about what it is you do and how you got started?
Yeah, sure. So thanks for inviting me on, by the way. I've been really excited to come on. So I started off by doing Gameboy mods. Back in the day, I say back in the day, about 7-8 years ago, I refurbished some Gameboys. So yeah, refurbished Gameboys before I modded them. And then that just went from strength to strength. Started experimenting with different kind of modifications. Built a community on Instagram on my page, Did Somebody Say Retro? That was really just to kind of link up with people and meet other people that are into the same thing, because it was kind of like quite a niche. Just collecting retro gaming stuff was quite niche back then. It wasn't until after about a couple of years after I started doing that you started noticing in like CEX there was like Super Nintendo's, N64s, so that then it started to grow then, and more people were interested. So then it went from that to, what did it go to next? I built a games room at home, started sharing pictures and videos of my content. And then ultimately ended up working for a company called NQ64, and they're an arcade bar company in the UK. They've got many sites now, all around the country. And I started working for them and then learned how to work on arcade machines. And then just kind of really been experimenting over the last 2 years with different kind of things I can do, and just been coming up with new ideas that I haven't seen before. Just trying to really give people something that they've not necessarily seen before.
I think you glazed over something absolutely huge there as well, where you said you started sharing content online to sort of build a community. Like, your community is enormous. You've built an empire.
Thank you.
And it is built out of something as simple as just sharing the thing that you love online.
Yeah.
People really overcomplicate the idea of like building their followers and community on social media, and they don't know what to post. But actually, like, you started it in the most purest way, in that you were just sharing your hobby and you were just filming yourself doing what you were doing anyway.
Yeah.
And like, how many people do you have in like your community now?
Instagram's 208,000, TikTok's 93. So I'd say those two together really. So what's that? We're looking at about 300,000. Then there's a few more on like Facebook and stuff, but I don't really use it.
Yeah, but that's enormous and such a massive achievement. And like, your content, like, obviously we've known you a long time, and like, you guys have been friends for decades.
You should probably get that out of the way first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and Shaun are close friends now for the last years.
Yeah.
Forever,
but you
man.
became friends over your shared interests of gaming and things like that. You lived together. It's like a thing you guys did together, but you took it one step further, and like, you've got like this global community of people that are always watching what you do now. Like, how did you kind of like start doing that, and did you expect it to get as big as it did?
Didn't expect it to get as big as it did. What was the start? What was the first bit of the question? Sorry.
How did you start? Like, what was the thing that made you want to start? Was it just to find other people that were into what you do?
I immediately think of things like going to car boot sales and finding like PlayStation games and stuff for cheap, because people weren't really buying them then, they were just getting rid of them. That's completely changed now. It's not really something that's possible to do for me now. Not for fun anyway. People go there and kind of rinse the market, rinse the car boot sales and put them instantly online. So those kind of things I really enjoyed doing, and I didn't really know anybody else that did it. So, and then obviously with the Game Boy stuff as well, I was refurbishing Game Boys, but I'd find that out from some accounts on Instagram, and then I'd start sending the messages, start making friends that way. And And then that's where it started really. And the meaning of the name really was kind of, if you say somebody say retro, it's kind of how I would feel, or how somebody would feel if they were in a community of people, or in like a crowd of people. And you can imagine hearing somebody say the word retro, because not many people are into retro. And then in your head, you're thinking, oh, did somebody say retro? And that was kind of the thing, the name, is like kind of find, the whole meaning of the name is to kind of find someone that's into the same thing. So that was the main reason at the start. It wasn't to make money, or anything like that to begin with. It was just to connect with people that are doing the same thing with retro gaming, collecting things and working on Gameboys.
Do you think it's blown up since you've started? Is it not the scene of people being into retro games and buying and selling online and things? You were saying like you used to go to car boots, but you can't anymore because people are all over it. So do you think you're at the cutting edge of something that just before it blew up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I got there just in time, just before the boom. Really, it was a boom, and I could see. I've been lucky enough to watch the whole thing happen. It was that one day when I went into town and saw CEX, and it had retro games in there, and I was like, oh, people are getting into it now. They're really getting into it. And then obviously with the car boot sale, seeing things going around, and then speaking to sellers, and them saying, oh, people have already been. They're like, people would go before it opens and pay to be a trader, and then go around all the places whilst they're getting the stuff onto the table, and buy it before anyone's got a chance. So, you could really tell it was booming then. And just like, we all know as well, because we all played these games, but like seeing remasters of old games like GTA remasters and Crash Bandicoot coming back out again and stuff like that, people realise that there's lots of playability in old games, and then noticing that if you add a nice touch to it and gloss it up a bit, that people from this generation of gamers can get into it as well. So yeah, it's definitely boomed massively. Yeah, and a lot of people say that. I've seen people over the years say, "Oh, it's going to crash," and all this, and it's never happened. I can't see that ever happening, to be honest. I don't know why people say that, but it's just gone from strength to strength.
Well, with every year that passes, what is retro expands, doesn't it? Things that were modern 10 years ago are now retro.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because there's more. Yeah, more time has elapsed since the first game, so yeah, there's more. Yeah, you're right.
What do you think that the big draw is, the big appeal is for retro gaming? Obviously, games are getting more advanced and more money is being spent on them, but people, like you say, are drawn to this generation of games from like 30 years ago. What do you think is maybe like we've lost in the gaming industry that was captured in the 90s or the 80s?
I think definitely the first thing is playability. And games were made to be enjoyable and to be replayed over and over again, for the most part anyway. So the real thing, that was what was concentrated on, is how fun is this to play? You can play something, you can go to an arcade now and you can play something that's just 8-bit graphics. It's really, really simple. I can put on the original Super Mario Brothers and just love it. I could sit there and play for hours and it would never get boring for me. I think that's what we've lost a lot of. I think that people concentrate a lot more these days on just graphics, and I don't think everybody does it. I think that a lot of people do it. Some people get it right, some people nail it and get it right. But yeah, for the most part, like I think it's playability that has been lost. Things like transactions, microtransactions, and things like that. That's killed a lot of fun. You realise that you don't just buy a game. Before, you used to buy a cartridge and that was it. There's no updates, there's no downloads, there's no DLC, downloadable content. That's the game, and they have to make sure that in that cartridge is as much fun as they can possibly pack into it. So yeah, I think that's where we lost it.
Greed and capitalism destroys everything, doesn't it, eventually?
Definitely, yeah, absolutely.
Well, like one of the things I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but with like retro gaming and that sort of like sense of nostalgia as well, I think one of the reasons like your community has probably grown as much as it is because so many people have so many happy memories playing those games from when they're kids. Like it was probably like I don't know about you, but maybe it was like the first time you actually got on with your siblings because you were playing together and down together, and those kind of like memories are like integral to how you feel about growing up and things like that.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Like how do you think that kind of like plays into your community? Is it a lot of like, do you get a lot of people sort of opening up about different things?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I have had people in the past talk about the first thing that comes to mind was a guy, I think it was a Game Boy Color, and he spoke about how his like nan bought his for him, and it pinged a nice memory for him. And that's one of the main things that I like to try and do. One of the two main things I like to try and do with Did Somebody Say Retro, the one is to inspire people to create something themselves. The second one is the nostalgia aspect. So it's difficult to have, I struggle to I struggle to understand how there could possibly be kind of bad memories with video games. A lot of the time, like you were saying, you tend to play them with your siblings or your friends and stuff, and it's just happy, it's fun, it's enjoyable. So you can usually guarantee that if somebody has a memory of playing a game, it's probably going to be really nice. So I try and give the nostalgia. I try and deliver nostalgia, basically. I think I used to have that in my bio, but yeah, if I can try and put together a setup or something that I used to have, and then record it and give people a nice feel for how it used to be when we used to play. Yeah, I try and do that as much as I can. So people do connect with my content on that level, and it's nice to be a part of that. To be a part of that, really.
Okay, nostalgia Santa.
A nostalgia what? Sorry,
Santa.
Yeah, nostalgia Santa. Yeah. I haven't gone grey yet though. Got the rosy cheeks.
Yeah, like thinking back, I think my first ever memory of playing a video game is when the first Doom came out. And I remember getting a PlayStation for Christmas, me and my brother sharing it, and my dad starting to play Doom, and me and my brother being absolutely terrified of these graphics and hiding behind. If you see what they look like now, you're like, oh my God, why are we terrified? Blobs.
I downloaded it recently, didn't I? The original Doom, and you were playing. You couldn't believe how bad it was.
Yeah.
It's shocking. But what's your sort of earliest gaming memory? What was like the trigger for you?
I'd say Super Mario Brothers 3. That was when we lived next door to one of my friends. I've spoken to him for years and years and years and years. But he had, I think I was Nintendo. He was Sega. So he had a Mega Drive or a Master System. I had the NES, and I had Super Mario Brothers 3. So I think that is my first memory. Definitely of a home console. For a handheld console, it would be a Game Boy, original Game Boy with Super Mario Land 2. So yeah, both very similar memories, but they're the two that I can think of at the earliest.
The sort of a mind-blowing moment for me with gaming when I think I was 7 years old or 6. My mum's sister's boyfriend came around our house with a PlayStation 1 and Tekken 2 and Tomb Raider. And I remember him turning it on, and like my little brain just exploded. What am I looking at?
Have you played that Tomb Raider? Excuse me. Have you played that Tomb Raider recently? The old one?
Yeah.
They're a nightmare to play. I don't know how we ever played them.
I have no idea. I completed it.
Possible.
I couldn't do it now at 34. I don't know how I did it. So. I think you spend all year on it though, wouldn't you? It wasn't like a thing you'd get it done in a weekend. It would take you an entire year to finish it.
Yeah, and you're right. You try and get as much out of it as you could, couldn't you? Because you don't want it to finish.
Another thing you do, Shaun, that we've not mentioned, you're somewhat like an engineering wizard as well, aren't you? With you building your cabinets and your different.
Thank you. That's too kind.
Do you want to talk us through some of the projects you've done?
Yeah, sure. So the most popular project I've done is called the Wood Boy. That's just next to me. That's a solid pint, because I used to be a carpenter for years and years. I managed to come up with an idea to mash the two hobbystic skills together. So like carpentry and the modding aspect. So I built a Game Boy arcade machine, basically. The thing that makes this unique is it's completely made out of solid, just pine. And it uses original hardware. So a lot of people use emulators and things like that these days, which is a very common and normal thing to do. But I managed, with the help of Aaron at Gamebox Systems, we managed to use the original hardware and actually put our actual cartridges in. So that's one of the that's the most popular item that I've built before. I recently built a solid pine virtual arcade machine. So that's called Pine Ball. I'm pointing as if you can see what I'm looking at, but and then there's a retro Pepsi can that used to be a hi-fi. I took that apart and I put a games console inside it. So there's like thousands of games and wireless pads, and it's all battery powered. Built arcade machines. I've recently done one for the Dre and Snoop gin and juice drink. So I've recently built that. And then I'm going to work on this Coca-Cola machine next. It's like a massive Coke can with a hi-fi in there. I'm going to put a GameCube in there, call it Cola Cube. So there's some couple of ones to mention. I put an N64 in a retro vintage suitcase. And then I did something called a case station, which I'm building the second one of that soon. And that is a Pelican flight case, and you open it up and it's got a PS1 in there, a full player PS1. And for that and the N64, you just plug a cable in the back and everything comes on at the same time. You just play. So they're the ones that are most notable. They're the ones that I'm most proud of, unless I've missed one, but I think that's all of them.
No, that sounds about right. Yeah, no, they're really impressive as well. The things you're putting together.
Thank you.
You do. It's just witchcraft to me.
Yeah. What were the ideas of what you want to do next? Is it you kind of see something else, you get inspired by something? Is it that nostalgia thing, or is it like you find something and think, how can I turn this into a gaming thing?
So most of them are just new ideas. Virtual pinball, I call it Pine Ball. That's inspired by my friend telling me about it. But then the case station, N64, Wood Boy, the Pepsi can, they're all things that I've never seen before. So to be honest, those kind of ideas tend either I come up with them when I'm just like doing something boring like driving or something like that, and I'll just be thinking and just coming up with ideas, and that's my thinking time then, when I can come up with stuff, and also when I can plan builds. But then NQ64, I work really closely with one of the directors in terms of projects, and he usually comes up to me and says, I want to do this, how achievable is it? And then I'll always say yes, because there's always a way of doing everything within reason, but there's nothing that I've said is not possible yet. One of the things he came up to me that I've missed out is called the Wide Boy, which is a 4-player control panel that's got everything built inside. So this 4-player control panel's got 4 joysticks and buttons, and then at the back is just a HDMI cable and a plug. You plug it into the telly and it just comes up, and it's just a fully fledged, if that's the right word, arcade machine. So that was, he was told that wasn't possible, and I was told it is, so I built it, and it's worked really well. It's in Leeds. So yes, it's a bit of a mixture. So either they come up in my head while I'm driving. The director at NK64 will come up to me and say, I want to build something like this. What have you got? What can you come up with? And then the only other sort of thing that was different was that Pepsi machine. That was sort of I bought it off someone, but he sort of came up to me and said, I want to sell you this, but on the agreement that you do something really cool with it. So then that was like a challenge then. So, I built that, and that's led on to the big Coke kind of version that I'm going to do. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm conscious that I'm waffling on then. I was going on and on about projects then. But,
Oh, good. So you mentioned there that you do a bit of work with NQ64, and that role kind of came about through your social media presence, didn't it? So like, what kind of opportunities?
Yes.
Like how have you sort of done that?
So that's a really interesting point that I'd like to talk about, because hopefully it will inspire people that are in a similar situation, to inspire them to just keep going when it's difficult. Because obviously when you're creating content, sometimes it gets difficult and you hit a lull, or the algorithm is working against you, and you feel like you want to give up. So hopefully this story hopefully helps people to carry on. But basically, I made a YouTube account, and then I just found NQ6. I basically typed into Google arcades in the UK. I found NQ64. That had two. There was Manchester and Liverpool. Me and Jade, we went up to Manchester and visited that one. So I recorded it on my phone, 16:9 vertically. So I ended up putting that on YouTube. So it looks rubbish because it's not even the right orientation. But I put it on YouTube, put it on Instagram. And then I had like little business cards and everything. And I wanted to go and hand it to the bar and then just say say what I'm doing. And I'm really interested in doing more. I was really nervous, didn't want to do it. And then I just thought, just go for it. So I just did it. And then I got over my nerves, went and did it, spoke to him. Area manager was there, spoke to him, or the manager. No, I think it was the manager. So he works at like head office and stuff. And then they told me that Birmingham was opening, but it's top secret. So they told me that the one in Birmingham, Site 3, is going to be opening soon. From that, I kept in contact and then got Tom. We went to that. We went to the opening, didn't we? So we went to the opening of when it's like a soft launch kind of thing. So it's like a testing night. And we all went there, and then that whole thing again where I was nervous. I really felt really anxious. I wanted to introduce myself, and then I just thought, forget it, just do it. Spoke to the guy behind the bar. He said the directors are over there. I was like, oh, cool. Do you want me to introduce you to them? So I was like, yeah, man, let's go for it. So I spoke to them. And then before they spoke to me, they'd gone on the internet and looked on my YouTube channel and whatever and saw the content. They came over to me and said, really like what you do. Here's the black card. We've only just started giving them out. It's like the second one. Really like what you're doing. So you got unlimited games for a year. And yeah, hopefully keep in touch. Then COVID happened. Everything shut down. I kept in contact. And then, long story short, by keeping that relationship with them, they ended up off. I asked them if there's anything going at all, because I'd been made redundant in COVID, and then they gave me like a part-time job. And then I was looking after the consoles because they were growing the company. So they went from Birmingham to, I think the next four were like Cardiff, Edinburgh, and Manchester, the second site in Manchester. And then I was responsible then for setting up the new sites. And then it just led on to full-time work, basically. It went from that to that, and then eventually into like building cool stuff and these unique projects, and them giving me the sort of financial freedom to come up and build stuff that I really want to do and be able to sort of stretch my skills and be able to, because I can't afford to, from my own bank, from my own pocket, to just buy all this stuff because it's expensive, man. But they're going to get good use out of it, and they can afford to do it, and they're going to put it on sites. So then, yeah, they gave me the freedom to do that, and it's just everything just went from strength to strength. But if I wouldn't have overcome my anxieties in Manchester and spoke to the person behind the bar and gave my card, nothing would have happened. So yeah, I just kept going with it, and it all worked out.
Well, it benefits both sides, doesn't it? It benefits them, it benefits you. It's a brilliant relationship you've got with that company. You promote them and they promote you, like I say. It's been amazing to watch, Shaun, over the last few years. You've taken a couple of hobbies that you've always had, like in carpentry and engineering and video gaming. You've been authentic to yourself, and it's just been a slow burn that you've stuck at over the years. And to watch it go from strength to strength, like you say, it's just been. I'm just really proud of you, mate.
Thanks, mate.
It's really impressive.
Yeah,
thank you, mate. It's really kind.
I think it's like a really important lesson for everyone there. Sometimes you do just have to shoot your shot, no matter how scary it is, because what's the worst anyone can do is just say no.
Exactly.
Just exactly.
Exactly.
And yeah, I feel like as well, like everything has just fallen into place for you, and like you've had all these skills throughout the years, and like probably when you started doing carpentry you couldn't see where the future was going, but looking back, all that work you've done has built up to this, and that's incredible. It's like looking back and seeing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
The opportunities, isn't there, along the way to start doubting yourself or to give in it and just get a regular 9-to-5 job, but just to consistently stick to your guns and keep going. It's been inspiring to watch. So,
thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. It's really kind of you.
Yeah. With that in mind, though, like keeping going all these years, Have you ever had to deal with anything like trolls or like negative comments or like difficult things? Because with a community of your size, like surely like you might have had a few sort of characters over the years.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking in my blog. I was just looking at because on Instagram there's a thing where like spam accounts you can remove them. So I did that the other day, and then you can see like people that you blocked who I've obviously forgot about over the years. But yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day where there have been on Instagram. It's a really nice community that I've got. Very, very nice. It's very rare to get nasty people in there, but when I do, I give. If they're just in there, just being horrible, I just block them. I'm not going to waste my time. These days, I don't even have time to sort of read, to reply to all the comments. I do try as hard as I can, and I do regularly try and read everything, but it's just so hard to just get back to everybody. But if I ever spot anything like that, I just block them. It's not worth my time. It's not worth their time. You know, the people, whoever they're being nasty to as well, don't deserve it. On TikTok, it's TikTok's just wild, man. I don't even, if I blocked if I just sat there going through all the nasty comments, but it just happened. I feel like it happens to be that kind of app anyway, and people just generally tend to be not that nice on TikTok. So I let it go over my head. Things like that used to really bother me. I used to think about it a lot. I've done projects before where somebody will say something that they think will be an issue. Well, they won't say that they think they'll say, that's going to overheat and things like that. And then people would jump on that and they'll keep saying it and saying it and saying it. And people will just keep saying the same thing. And these projects, none of these things that anyone has ever said has happened. Never. But people dive in and just whenever they can, especially on TikTok. So yeah, on Instagram I block them because that's my sort of really my most valued communities on Instagram because that's where it started. So I don't let that stuff kind of slide on there, so I'll get rid of them. But thankfully, I don't have to deal with that very often.
The weird thing, isn't it? I mean, it's been spoke about at length, I suppose, at this point by people more qualified than me and you. But the vicious spitefulness that appears online is just bizarre to me. I don't know what kick people get out of it, but yeah, it's something about the anonymity, isn't it, of being behind a keyboard.
Yeah.
They can just say without consequence, I guess.
Yeah, and these people, they'd never say it, and I'm not going to sit there and say it to my face and stuff like that. It's just a waste of time. But these people would never do that. They would never just walk up to, if you were building something on the side of a road, building an arcade machine or whatever, and someone walked past it who was into retro gaming, came over to it, they would not just come up to your face and just tell you that that's rubbish or I do that differently. They wouldn't do it, or they wouldn't be nasty either. But it's just one of those things you just have to deal with. It's just unfortunately one of those things. It's like you said, it's the anonymity of them not having to ever take responsibility for it. They can just say whatever they want, and yeah, they never have to face it, do they?
Just comes with the nature of being online nowadays, doesn't it? It's just
Yeah, you're
right. You've had some quite interesting collaborations as well, haven't you, with other businesses in the last couple of years? Did I see a Netflix gaming one as recently?
Yeah, man.
How did that come about?
Yeah, so Netflix games, they approached me a while back. I'm not sure how far back, but I'd probably say at the start of the year or something, about a particular game that they wanted me to advertise. Started bouncing some ideas off them. And then it ended up going to somebody else. And then they said, don't worry, we'll come back to you with another game later in the year. And I didn't hear anything for a while. So to be honest, I thought that it wasn't going to happen. And then they said, Roller Coaster Tycoon Touch is coming out and would you like to collaborate on it? So yeah, naturally I was all over it. So that was to date the biggest collaboration I've done. And yeah, it was really good. You know, you have to put a lot of work into it. You have to make sure that it's right. And there was lots of changes to make, very small changes, like tweaks here and there, and you know, backwards and forwards, different revisions and stuff like that. But I managed to do it, you know, working through the night, not through the night, but till late at night and stuff to do it. But it was definitely worth it. I've done Disney Marvel a few years ago. Who else have I collaborated with? Yeah, sorry, my mind's gone blank on that one. But yeah, Netflix is definitely the biggest one.
Yeah. Have you ever had any brands approach you and they've come to you with like a really crap deal and you've gone, oh no, piss off? And like
What, a crap deal?
Yeah, like they're sort of taking advantage of your following and it's not quite right. Like do you always go with ones that sort of feel right for you?
Yeah, so I've had people approach me. I've had a particular I won't name them because it should still work, should still come to something in the future. But when they initially came to me, they're a huge marketplace online, and they offered a very small amount for a collaboration. They're international, like massive. So I just said, no, it's got to be more than that, because I know my worth, but I'm not willing to. The difference between Netflix games and a brand I've recently collaborated with is that there's a very big difference between it, but it doesn't mean that just because I've worked for Netflix games that I'm not willing to do any more collaborations that are on the smaller side of things in terms of pay. I'm still willing to do those things because I appreciate that they haven't got Netflix games money, which is fine. It's absolutely fine. But yeah, if I see that someone's taking the piss, I will now say, I'm not going to do that. It has to be a bit more. So if you want to reconsider, then come back to me. But for the most part, I tend to sometimes, yeah. So if there's somebody that I've been friends with or somebody that I really want to support, then there's loads of room to work something out. Just something between me and them. But yeah, I definitely know my worth these days. So yeah, I know how to spot if someone's taking the mick.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that took you a while to figure out, like how much you should be charging for things and things like that, or do you had a good sense of it from the start?
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, when I was in the building trade and stuff, I had it then. I'm better at it now, but I've never really understood. I always try and think, oh, what would I want to pay? Those kinds of things. They're the kinds of things that run through my mind. But now that but the problem is there's such a big difference in what you can be paid to the work that you do when it's in terms of like doing, like a collaboration online. It's like making video content and stuff. There's such a big difference. It is hard to gauge because I just know that I can't. Certain companies just don't have that kind of money, but it doesn't mean that I can still work with them at the same time. So yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because there's so much. It could. Yeah, I hope I'm making sense. It is a tricky one to sort of gauge.
You're not making any sense. I don't know you are yet. Making perfect sense.
Thanks, Mike.
In terms of social media, Shaun, do you have to keep an eye on modern trends and things that are catching people's attention in order to sort of tailor make your content?
Yes, I do keep an eye on things. I do tend to just stick to what I do, but my main thing that I'm always mindful of when I make content is what I also try and encourage other people to do is when you make content, make it so that you enjoy it. Don't worry about anybody else. Just make something that you will enjoy to watch. So when I make content, I want to enjoy watching my own stuff 2-3 times over in a row, and that's what happens most of the time. So I do keep an eye on it, but on TikTok, for instance, it's like songs that go viral, but I never select viral songs. I just select what I like, and maybe that works against me, and maybe I could be more popular if I used these rubbish popular songs, but I'm never going to do it because it just completely takes away from my content. So yeah, I do keep an eye on trends. I saw like ASMR was kind of a thing that started, and I've managed to work that into my content and try. I feel like it's very, very with ASMR. I really like the challenge of it. So if you do an ASMR video, it's very like you have to really fine tune each clip. So if you make an ASMR video and you leave it for 0.1 each clip, like 0.1 second out or 0.1 second too long, it doesn't get the right feel. So I like that challenge and really tweaking it meticulously to make it work. So yeah, I incorporated ASMR into some of my content. for the other stuff like viral videos and those kind of, not viral videos, viral songs and those kind of trends, I stay away from that.
Yeah, I think that's really important though, because like a huge part of your brand is that it is you, it's your personal brand. And like I love, like, if I start scrolling and I hear like an opening beat to an MF Doom song, I usually know it's your content. I usually know like,
Wicked.
oh, that's gonna be Shaun, like, you know, it's you. And that is so much more important than following trends. And I think so many people get wrapped up when they start posting, or if they start doing like hobby accounts or anything like that, that they're trying to please everybody else. And you shouldn't everybody else, should you? It's what you enjoy and what you love, because that's what people want to see and what people want to hear. So you can definitely tell like you've soaked your personality into it completely. And like,
that's good to know. Thank you.
You have that sort of like recognition of like, oh, MF Doom, it's Shaun again.
Nice. Thank you.
It's a very specific type of content you're making, isn't it? So you go through the process of you building something. It's almost like that therapeutic nature of like an unboxing video or something, where it's like there's a process to it, and you watch the slow going from A to B of you with all the pieces on the table, and then with the finished product at the end.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wonder how many people of your followers are into the engineering side as much as maybe the retro gaming side. You cover quite a few bases.
Yeah, so I do like to put out content of things in my collection, because I've got some unique items like the Japanese Famicom, which is the original NES console, with the disc drive that I got recently. Like, I've always wanted that and I love it. It looks amazing, and you don't really get to see that very often. So on the one side, I like to put out content like that. But I think that over time, when I started moving more towards the projects content, I feel like, looking back, I did get kind of a dip, and it kind of my followers kind of changed over time, and I got to see that more people kind of came on board that were into. Eventually, more people came on board that were into the engineering side. There was kind of like there was a shift basically that I noticed when I did shift from mainly collection to projects. So there are a lot of people that are into that. I'd say most of my followers are into seeing me build stuff. And that's like a mixture of people that are not into it at all. Like, they don't practice it, like they don't do it. They're just interested in looking at the content. And there's a lot of people that are actually, do the same thing, and they build their own stuff. They build their own arcade machine. They'll come up to me and say, I'm looking at building something similar to this. Can you give me some advice? So yeah, there's a good mix. But I like to mix things up on my page a little bit. I don't want it to just be projects. I also enjoy just sharing nostalgic content as well, and sharing bits in my collection that people might not have seen before. So yeah, there's a good mix. But I'd say these days most of my followers are into the project stuff. The benefit is that because I work for NQ64, is I have that time where it's usually 1 or 2 days a week when I'm building something. So I have the opportunity to make content. If it wasn't for that, I'd have a lot less content, because I don't have much time to build stuff for myself. I tend to share my NQ64 projects a lot. So that has definitely helped over the years, is having that employment where that's my job, so I get to share that these days. So that helps.
Something we ask everyone. Is there any information or any advice that, if you could go back to when you started the business, that you would tell yourself that you've learned over the course of the last few years? What's one thing you would tell your younger self? Thanks, Sam.
I've got them both, don't worry. What would I tell myself to help me along, or just something to be mindful of? Or
what's one piece of advice you would give to someone else that's like wants to do what you're doing?
Okay, it would be to never stop doing it, no matter how disheartened you get when you stop getting views and likes. Enjoy the mess ups. Take, like, learn as much as you can from messing up, because you're going to constantly mess up. You're gonna, if you're building stuff, you're going to ruin circuit boards sometimes. It's going to happen, but enjoy it and learn as much as you can from it. And the third bit, I'd just say, when you get that voice in your head that's telling you that you're not going to be able to do that, or don't talk to that person because you're going to make a prat of yourself, is ignore that voice and just do it, and just keep doing it.
Silencio Bruno. Have you ever watched Luca?
I've half watched it. It's been on in the background. I haven't watched it properly.
It's a deep cut, don't worry about it.
Better send it me later.
Cool. Shaun, if people want to find out more about what you do and see all of your incredible content, where can they find you?
Instagram, Did Somebody Say Retro, and TikTok, Did Somebody Say Retro. Just all one word, Did Somebody Say Retro.
Cool. Love that. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us today,
No,
Shaun.
thank you.